Hello, girls, guys, or otherwise. This is Rich, and a few pieces of business before I go any further on this. For one, ignore this because that has something to do with another video and some working that I was doing the other day. Um, uh, the shirt, not really a fashion statement here, kind of the MDA one. Um, this is actually an old shirt that my uncle gave me. And yeah, so a couple things there. And we're also going to ignore the lighting in here because, and as I'm tossing stuff up this way to get stuff out of my way, we're ignoring the lighting because, yeah, I don't want to fiddle with having dark, like heavier blinds in here or heavier curtains in here. And yeah, I'm actually facing the window and I get that nice little like glare on my glasses, and I'm just too damn lazy to fix that. So anyway, welcome to Christo-Paganism Sunday, and we're going to get on in. We have a lot of ground to cover on the Nephilim. I wanted to do this video because I think it's an interesting topic. It's not one that really gets discussed very often. Before I go into discussing I'm going to stick to more of a biblical or sacred text version of what the Nephilim are or were or are, either way. Um, what my thought is on them, and I'm basically going to just try to give that information and like leave it there and maybe get a conversation going on what your views are on the Nephilim. Um, I do suggest if you're looking for a more I don't I guess well-rounded would be the best way to describe it. Point of view, go to the Modern Witch podcast. If you're not already listening to that, um, well, do yourself a service and go listen to the Modern Witch podcast because most of the people who are here are witches and are practitioners of witchcraft. Let's get that a little bit closer. And yeah, I think that would just be a good service for you to do for yourself. Anyway, they did a two-part on the Nephilim, and they take it in a completely different direction. It has Devin Hunter as the host. He is interviewing a few people, and I'm going to just go on my phone here real quick to try to make sure that I catch all of the individuals that were on there. Jason Miller, Michelle Belanger, um, Belanger, I think is how it's pronounced, and our very own Christopher Penzak, that we are going through the Inner Temple of Witchcraft. Yeah, we are going through his series on the Temple of Witchcraft series for our Christo-Paganism Saturday. So if you want to listen to these four individuals talk about the Nephilim, like I said, it's a two-part series, and they go into so many different nuanced points. There's talk of them being aliens or alien kinds or extraterrestrial kinds of individuals, just as spirit beings and whatnot. A very interesting conversation is being had on that podcast. So I do suggest that you go and listen to that podcast. But anyway, we're going to take a more focused approach to the biblical narrative or the sacred text narrative. We are not only discussing the Bible, but we are also going to be discussing the book of Enoch and a little bit of the Quran. Excuse me here while I drink a little bit of my iced tea. I don't know. Can you call it iced tea if it doesn't have ice in it? I don't know. Anyway, so the first appearance that we have of the Nephilim is actually in Genesis 6, and it's discussed in chapter 6, verses 1 through 3, or I mean, 1 through 1 through 13. And I wanted to cover all of that because then it goes into the Noah story and his ark and whatnot. And I'm just fiddling with stuff on my desk. Anyway, let's get on into it. I do kind of like to read the passages and then give my running commentary throughout. I think it's kind of fun. Anyway, I do not have the Book of Enoch. I'm actually going to pull it up on my computer here and read it to you guys through that, and we'll go from there. Anyway, let's get on into it. Again, starting in chapter 6 of Genesis, when human beings began to grow numerous on the earth, and the daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw how beautiful the daughters of human beings were, and so they took for their wives whomever they pleased. Let's stop there. So what we have here is we have daughters of men, so human beings with human beings' souls, and we have sons of God. So in this, it is commonly believed to be angels. Okay, and I really bump up against this. They took whomever they pleased. Not a good, no. Especially looking at it through 2021 eyes and looking back into history. Yeah, consent, I'm assuming was not a thing. Yeah, I would like to think that there was some consent. Maybe you had a really buff angel, but yeah, maybe this just the consent thing was not there, and I'm not here for that. Just putting that out there. Verse number 3. Then the Lord said, "My spirit shall not remain in human beings forever, because they are only flesh." Let's stop here. I want to go back to this. The Lord said, "My spirit shall not remain in human beings forever." So in this verse, we have this God figure that in the Christian Bible is, he says quite plainly, "My spirit is a part of you." And that, I think, is important to note, and that's part of the, the God in me recognizes the God in you. And even though he, she, or it in this passage says that it shall not remain in human beings forever because they are only flesh, I don't think that's exactly what happened. So I think all of us have that little spark, that little light, especially in the Gnostic sense, that, there is a little light in me that is, godlike, and that little light also resides in each one of you. So, namaste. Anyway, moving on. Their days shall comprise 120 years. Okay. Yeah. We're just, okay. Yeah, that's really kind of odd. That's just like a random number that's pointed out here. And, yeah, I don't know what to really make of that. If you have a comment on that one, leave it below, because that's kind of a weird phrasing. Because we've had people that have lived to 120 years and then died of natural causes because old age is a thing. But oddly enough, he also has human beings in biblical times that have lived longer than 120 years. So it doesn't really make sense that he even says this. Okay. Continuing on, the Nephilim appeared on earth in those days as well as later. after the sons of God had intercourse with the daughters of human beings, who bore them sons. They were the heroes of old, the men of renown. Okay, so here we just jump right into that Nephilim appeared. But we get some backstory as to who they are. And it says that this is not the only time whenever they appeared, they also appeared later. And I think that's something that we have to note here. After the sons of God had intercourse with the daughters of human beings, who bore them sons. And apparently, all these angel human hybrids are all male. I say screw the patriarchy. I think that's yeah, I don't think that's really a thing. I don't think that's how that works. But okay, we're just gonna go with it and say screw the patriarchy on that one. They were heroes of old and men of renown. Yeah, okay. So they were once heroes, and okay, yeah. I have nothing against that. That's just giving some backstory, whatever. No big deal. But the weird thing about this is you have these angels that were very forceful, apparently. Took these human being women, essentially without their consent, raped them, and these women bore males, apparently, and they ended up being heroes. Um, just a couple things that need to be explained here, just a few. Um, why are they always males? And why are these considered heroes if apparently they're also the bad guys? I don't know. Because we're going to see here that they were not necessarily, liked as from this deity figure. So, moving on. When the Lord saw how great the wickedness of human beings was on the earth, and how every desire that their heart conceived was always nothing but evil, the Lord regretted making human beings on earth, and his heart was grieved. So the Lord said, I will wipe out from the earth the human beings I have created, and not only the human beings, but also the animals and the crawling things and the birds of the air, for I regret that I made them. But Noah found favor with the Lord. These are the descendants of Noah, and I didn't think I went that far. These are the descendants of Noah. Was a righteous man and blameless in his generation. Noah walked with God. Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. But the earth was corrupt. This is why I kept it in the view of God, and full of lawlessness. When God saw how corrupt the earth had become, since the mortals had corrupted their ways on earth, God said to Noah, I see that the end of all mortals has come, and the earth is full of lawlessness because of them. So I am going to destroy them with the earth. Okay. So he's putting a lot of blame on human beings here, which he shouldn't be. I'm just going to come out right out here and say this. The lawlessness is not on the part of the human beings necessarily in this instance. Rather, it is on the part of his very own angels, his very own the sons of God that came down and had sex with women against their will. And the reason I say this is because of what we find in Enoch, actually, that goes along with this. But anyway, we're gonna just leave that there. Just put a pin in that. We're gonna move on to Numbers 13, 33. We're going to get there. Okay. Whoop. Next page. There we go. And by the way, I am reading out of the New Catholic Answers Bible. I wanted a Catholic version that was actually leather bound. I enjoy a nice leather bound Bible. You know, I am not vegan. I do respect people who are vegan, but I am not. And I think that if I'm going to be eating the meat of an animal, I should also be willing to use the entirety of the animal as well. And if you look on the back here, it also has the rosary that you can, it's embossed, and you can say the rosary on that. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here. Let's get back on topic. So 1333 of Numbers, or 32 and 33, I'm sorry. It says, they spread discouraging reports among the Israelites about the land they had reconnoitered, saying, I'm guessing at the pronunciation of that word, saying, the land that we went through and reconnoitered is a land that consumes its inhabitants, and all the people we saw there are huge. We saw the Nephilim. The Anakim are from the Nephilim. In our own eyes, we seemed like we were like mere grasshoppers, and so we must have seemed to them. So in this, we see that these Nephilim, as are described here in Numbers, that the Nephilim were enormous, that they towered over the Israelites. So we're building a picture of what these angel-human hybrids that had no say in their birth or in their creation. They had no say in it because, well, their fathers were assholes and their mothers didn't have a choice. And yeah, they end up becoming these enormous beings that towered over mere mortal human beings. So we're going to move on from that. And we also see that that they inhabited Canaan. And I'm reading off my notes here. And I have found some information here. Some Jewish explanations interpret them as fallen angels. So maybe these weren't the good angels. Maybe these were the bad fallen angels. In reality, we really don't know because there's nothing stating it here. But I do find that interesting that that in some Jewish traditions, some Jewish explanations are that these are fallen angels. I wonder, is that because a just God, in their view, would not let their angels have sex with women against their will, or something like that? Or is it because of the beings that were created, that they were created in these horrible beings and whatnot? I don't know why they have this explanation. I just have some questions. So we're going to, and this is probably going to be a video of more questions than answers. Let me take another drink here real quick. And I am bouncing around a lot here. Yeah, in the biblical narrative, many of them were killed or were the reason of Noah's flood, and they were killed. Most of them, I would assume, were killed in Noah's flood, but then again, we have accounts of them being there afterwards, which is contrary to what some Christian teachings are. So who really knows? I did find this interesting. In the Quran, it refers to the people of Ad, spelled A-D, whom the prophet Hud declares them to be like, uh, I'm going to try this, Jabarim, or Jabarin, which probably refers to the Nephilim. Okay. They are said to be giants, with the tallest being, I'm trying to read my own writing, the tallest being 100 feet high. According to Islamic mythos, they were not all wiped out in the flood, since some of them were too tall to drown. Instead, God destroyed them after rejecting further warnings. They I'm trying to read my writing here. They, upon their death, were banished to the lower levels of hell. Okay, so in Islamic mythos, God took control and said, "Okay, these Nephilim, I'm going to kill them off. They're going to go and be in the lower levels of hell." In biblical mythos and in the Judeo-Christian mythos, you have where apparently some of them survived, and we don't know if they're still here or not. Doesn't really say. I will go to Wisdom, the book of Wisdom. Wisdom, chapter 14, verse 6. We see that it's written, "For of old, when the proud giants were being destroyed, the hope of the universe, who took refuge on a raft, left to the world a future for the human family under the guidance of your hand." Okay, so finally, like half a freaking book later, we find out, after so many other stories, we find out what happened to these supposed Nephilim. These giants, which the Bible doesn't necessarily call them giants. Some interpretations do, some don't. Some don't refer to them as Nephilims. Some do, some don't. But supposedly these were giants, as given evidence from the Numbers passage. Sorry for bumping the mic there. So supposedly by the Numbers passage, they were giant beings, and by Wisdom, we hear that they were wiped out whenever, or they were destroyed, and the hope of the universe, who took refuge on a raft. So I would assume that means Noah's Ark. No clue. Not really. I mean, and to tell you the truth, the Book of Wisdom is more of like a poetry type of book. It's quite lovely, and yeah. So biblical literature is not always straightforward, and that's kind of one of the things I love about it, and one of the things I don't love about it. So, according to the biblical mythos, okay, let's just put this into perspective. We have angels who come down, or maybe they were fallen angels. Who knows? Depending on your tradition, that might be what they are, that might not be what they are. So we have these angels that have sex with human beings that were not necessarily consulted or consenting, so already an issue. So we have that. They have male-only babies who are apparently gigantic, to where people look like grasshoppers in front of them. This story's getting wild. And then God said, well, hell no. And says, hey, Noah, get on this ship, build this ship, and sail on out, and I'm going to make it flood and kill all these bastards out. Yet later on, we see them again. So, mission accomplished? George Bush mission accomplished banner? Was that busted out at any time there? I don't know. And it is very confusing the way this is written. Okay. So, beyond them being just excruciatingly tall, why would God want them destroyed? And we're coming to Enoch. And I am going to leave the link to the Sacred Texts website where I'm reading this book of Enoch. And I will leave it all on the bottom bar so you can read this along. It actually took me a little time to find this book of Enoch, because there's a couple different ones. So anyway, let me drink first, and then I will read this to you. That is peach tea, by the way. Anyway. It happened after the sons of man had multiplied in those days that daughters were born to them, elegant and beautiful. And when the angels and the sons of heaven beheld them, they became enamored of them, saying to each other, come, let us select ourselves wives from the progeny of men, and let us beget children. Cringe. Then their leader, Semyaza, said to them, I fear that you may perhaps be indisposed to the performance of this enterprise, and that I alone shall suffer for so grievous a crime. So they knew this was wrong. But they answered him and said, we all swear and bind ourselves by mutual execrations that we will not change our intention, but execute our projected undertaking. These are very properly spoken angels, oddly enough. Okay. Then they swore all together, and all bound themselves by mutual execrations. Their whole number was 200, who descended upon Aradus, which is the top of Mount Armon. The mountain therefore was called Armon, because they had sworn upon it and bound themselves by mutual execrations. And then these are the names of their chiefs. Semyaza, who was their leader. Urakabarmiel, Akabil, Tamiel, Ramuel, Daniel, Azkiel. You know what? I'm not going to try to pronounce the rest of these. It has a good hearty list here. And then it says these were the prefects of the 200 angels, and the remainder of them were all with them. Okay, so they're all together. Okay, they took wives, each choosing for himself, whom they began to approach, and with whom they cohabitated, teaching them sorcery, incantations, and dividing of roots and trees. Okay, so they're actually teaching the human women that they apparently took as wives. So we have a little bit more of a focused look at what these angels did. And by reading the first half of this chapter, you see that they had these execrations, which is a severe longing. Um, so they had this severe longing to be with these women, is the way I'm reading it. If you're reading it differently, let me know. Maybe they just had an extreme longing to be with somebody. Um, anyway, but they took them as their wives. They took wives, each choosing for himself. So they took a wife. Again, not happy how they just take a wife. It's like, sit her down to dinner and whatnot. Maybe get to know one another first. But this seems kind of forceful in the way that they did this, and I'm not here for that. Um, who they began whom they began to approach and with whom they cohabitated. So they're living together. I would assume that this is taking place over probably a longer period of time because, I mean, I don't know if they would like be cohabitating that quickly. I don't know. I have questions. I have lots of questions on this one. And the women, and then they said, whom they cohabitated, teaching them sorcery, incantations, and dividing of roots and trees. So they are teaching them, basically witchcraft. And yeah, we're gonna set this. We're gonna set a pin in that one as well. And that's these angels teaching these women. We're not even at the Nephilim yet on this. And the women conceiving brought forth giants, whose stature was each 300 cubits. These devoured all which the labor of men produced, until it became impossible to feed them. So they're very hungry, and began to injure birds, beasts, reptiles, and fishes, and eat their flesh one after another, and to drink their blood. Then the earth reproved the unrighteousness, or the unrighteous. Okay, so big oopsie on the angel's part. Apparently, like, for one, these angels came down. They taught women magic, for one. And yeah, I'm totally there for that. But these women who conceive these Nephilim, apparently these Nephilim were destroying everything. Okay, so let's move on. This is chapter 8. It's a short chapter, so bear with me. Moreover, Azrael taught men to make swords, knives, shields, breastplates, and fabrication of mirrors, and the workmanship of bracelets and ornaments, the use of paint and beautifying the eyebrows, the use of stones of every valuable and slicked kind, and all sorts of dyes, so that the world became altered. Impiety increased, fornication multiplied, and they transgressed and corrupted all their ways. And Amazarach taught all the sorcerers and dividers of roots. Armors taught the solution of sorcery. Barkael taught the observers of the stars. Achabil taught signs. Tamiel taught astronomy. And Azrael taught the motion of the moon, and men being destroyed cried out, and their voice reached to heaven. Okay, so we have a lot of good that these angels are doing, and I'm gonna just bring that down. Okay, so we have a lot of good that these angels are doing, so I can't really fully fault them on this. My main hang up with these angels is whether or not there was consent. I am really kind of caught up on that one to begin with, and I'm not here for it if they did not consent, if the women did not consent to being with these angels. So I love that the angels were teaching all these things. It's you know it gives a lot of explanation as to why there is sorcery and how human beings knew this. I don't know how this is explained after the flood. So yeah, I don't know. I have not looked too much into that, but I think this is an interesting subject to start broaching upon. Maybe I'll do another video on that entirely. But getting to the Nephilim, or the Nephilim, um, we have that as the reason why God supposedly flooded the earth. And according to the Quran, apparently that didn't quite do it. And even according to the Bible, it didn't quite do it. It didn't quite finish the job. I kind of see, like, I see Noah sitting there, like, looking at a Nephilim and being like, Mortal Kombat, finish him. But, yeah, apparently flooding the entire earth did not quite work. So, yeah, I have a lot of questions. Okay. One, and this is only a little bit of my questions. One, did the angels actually get consent? Big thing. Two, how does an angel and a human make a giant? Not sure how that works. Yeah, I don't know, and it hurts my head to think about it. But how does that work? I mean, how did that happen? And was it because of the Nephilim or the Nephilim that this biblical God actually took matters into his own hands and flood the earth? Or is it because the angels were teaching the secrets of sorcery and astrology, astronomy, and divination and whatnot, looking to the stars as astrology and whatnot? But is it because of that this deity figure took action and flooded the earth? Or was it because of these giant beings that were eating and destroying everything in their path? Or was it both? Furthermore, if this almighty being that apparently made the universe in 7 days was able to make the world, and actually 6 days, as we've read before, if this being was able to make the earth in 6 days and take the 7th because he needed a little rest, then why is it that he cannot properly flood the earth enough to completely rid the Nephilim that we actually hear about them later in the book? I don't understand that. I mean, we hear in biblical literature that it didn't quite destroy them because they lived in Canaan. We hear in the Quran, which is an offshoot of Judaism, as if you guys don't know it is, but or yeah, because of Abraham and whatnot. Anyway, so okay, so apparently they weren't quite wiped out because they lived in Canaan, and they weren't quite wiped out because they were still around in the Quran. And the Quran says that they weren't wiped out. And yet, in the wisdom literature, we look back and we see that that they were destroyed, but they weren't. So is the wisdom book really that wise? I have questions here, guys. And I don't really, like I said, this is going to be a video of more questions than answers, and I don't have the answers to them. Now, reading the book of Enoch was interesting because that's the second time that I've gone through there and read that. But I found that very interesting that the the angels were teaching magic and witchcraft and sorcery of all kinds to these women, and yeah, I'm there for it. Um, and I think that might have something to do with why the earth was flooded. Not necessarily the giants, because you didn't quite do the job correctly to get rid of them. So I don't think that's the reason why you flooded the earth. You were trying to get rid of all the secret teachings of magic and witchcraft. Just my thought. After all, if you can make the earth in the universe in 6 days, you can definitely flood it all in, 40 or less and get rid of everything else on that, that little round ball, or at least as we know it today, being a round ball. You can get rid of everything except one little family. But hey, what do I know? Anyway, yeah, I think my rant is over. Yeah, this is getting to be kind of a long video. And it took a little long to get there, but I think we got there. And we asked a lot of questions there. I don't necessarily have all the answers to it, and I kind of wish I did, but I also kind of wish that I didn't, or I like that I don't. I think it's important to have these questions and to have these thoughts and ideas and these discussions um, with one another to get the conversation rolling on, who were these Nephilim? Were they really giants of that big of a stature? Did they actually exist? Are these just spiritual beings? Now, you can find that supposedly there were Nephilim bones found and this and that. No, no, that's already been debunked. But you can find these stories of people finding that stuff, and just, it's not a thing. But getting the story moving along here, or the conversation moving along here of, were they beings? Were they physical beings? Were they spiritual beings? Um, did they even exist at all? In either case, um, did the angels consent, or did the angels have the consent of the women? Either way, fuck the patriarchy. But did they get the permission from these women whenever they gave birth? Why would they give birth to giants? That makes zero sense. Um, was the reason that the flood happened because of witchcraft? You know, these are questions that I want some answers to. Um, Let me know if you have answers to any of these questions. Leave a comment below. Um, so, yeah. Anyway, I don't know if I solved any world problems today, but I certainly had some fun discussing these. Um, Join me on Tuesday. Tomorrow we take Mondays off. Join me on Tuesday for the Four of Swords uh, tarot talk video. We're gonna be going through the Four of Swords. So, and then Wednesday, I'm not sure exactly what we're doing Wednesday. My planner's over there and I can't reach it. So, yeah, we got Wednesday, and yeah, Witchy Wednesday and Table Talk Thursday, and we're on chapter 7 now, right? For the Inner Temple Witchcraft series. Yep, chapter 7 on Saturday, and then back here again next Sunday for another Christo-Paganism Sunday. So, not exactly sure what our lineup is, but I'll probably cover it in Tarot Talk Tuesday video, so join me on Tuesday then. Until next time, may you have love, hugs, and ladybugs. Bye-bye.